One quiet afternoon in Blackstone, Massachusetts, a shocking discovery shattered the calm of the neighborhood. It started when a 10-year-old boy, playing at Erica Murray's house, called his mother in a panic. He had stumbled upon a baby crying inside the home and didn't know what to do. His mother, Betsy Brown, rushed over to help, but the moment she stepped inside, she was overwhelmed by the stench. Trash was piled high, insects crawled across the floors, and human waste was smeared on the walls. In one of the rooms, Betsy found two little girls, one still an infant, both filthy and sobbing. The scene was horrifying, but even then, she had no idea this was only the beginning of a much darker story. What authorities would later uncover inside that house would shock the entire community. Erica Murray's life had started far more ordinarily. She was born in 1983, the third child of Kevin and Sharon Murray. They lived in a quiet rural part of southern Worcester County, Massachusetts, the same house where Kevin himself had grown up. Kevin worked as a mechanic, often fixing things around the house, while Sharon stayed home and loved making crafts. The Murrays were well liked in their neighborhood. They were friendly, social, and often hosted summer barbecues for family and friends. Erica grew up in this warm environment. People remembered her as a happy, lively little girl with a charming smile. She played games like baseball and hide-and-seek with her older siblings and seemed to have a bright future ahead. During her teenage years in the late 1990s, Erica became very focused on her appearance. She was always neatly dressed, with perfectly styled hair and polished nails. She was responsible, did well in school, and was seen as someone who had clear goals. Before finishing high school, she took a part-time job at a fast food restaurant. That's where she met Raymond Rivera, a co-worker 7 years older than her. Not much is known about his background, other than that he had a sister named Christine and worked at the same restaurant. Their friendship quickly grew into a romantic relationship. At first, things seemed sweet and supportive, but over time, their relationship became more controlling and intense. In 2001, when Erica was 18, she found out she was pregnant. The news devastated her. She worried about graduating while visibly pregnant and what others would think. With encouragement from a close friend, she attended graduation anyway. A few weeks later, on July 17th, she gave birth to a baby girl named Kayla. Erica, Raymond, and their newborn moved in with her parents. 2 years later, Erica became pregnant again. With the family growing, their space in her parents' house became too cramped. Around 2003 or 2004, they moved in with Raymond's sister Christine in Blackstone. There, Erica gave birth to their second daughter, Nicola. To the outside world, their life looked perfectly normal. Erica posted cheerful updates on social media, birthday parties, home-cooked meals, and snapshots of her kids. The children went to school and seemed happy and healthy. But behind closed doors, things were slowly unraveling. Over the years, their home turned into a chaotic, filthy environment. Surprisingly, no one in the community seemed to suspect anything. Erica kept up appearances online, sharing ordinary details of daily life, even as her real home life fell apart. To outsiders, Erica Murray's life looked almost perfect. Many people admired the family photos she shared online, which painted a picture of happiness and stability. She worked as a sales associate at a craft store in Whiteville, but behind the scenes, her life was slowly falling apart. Friends and relatives began noticing alarming changes in her. The woman who once took pride in her appearance, dressing neatly and carrying herself with confidence, now looked tired and unkempt. She wore oversized clothing, rarely left the house, and started pulling away from everyone. Her family assumed she was simply embarrassed about the mess in her home. But the truth was far more disturbing. The shocking reality came out one ordinary afternoon, thanks to her neighbor, Betsy Brown. Betsy's 10-year-old son had gone to play with Erica's son, but after a while he called his mother, frightened and asking for help. A baby in the house wouldn't stop crying, and he didn't know what to do. Surprised to hear there was even an infant living there, Betsy went over to see for herself. The moment she opened the door, she was hit by an overpowering, foul smell. What she saw inside left her stunned. The house was dark, its windows covered with sheets. Trash was piled in every corner. Rats and insects ran freely, and maggots infested parts of the floor. Clothing and human waste were scattered everywhere. Following the sound of crying, Betsy made her way to a back room. She expected to find one baby, but instead, she discovered two small children. One was around 5 months old, the other about 3 years old. This shocked her. She had always believed Erica only had two children, a 13-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. The two little girls she found were lying in separate beds, filthy and rocking themselves in distress. Their frail bodies were covered in grime and crawling with maggots. It was clear they had been left alone for a long time. Horrified, Betsy called 911 and described the conditions to the dispatcher. Human waste was smeared on the walls. Dirty diapers were scattered everywhere, and baby bottles were crawling with maggots. Blackstone police arrived quickly, but even seasoned officers were stunned by what they found. The home was in a state of severe neglect. The children were living in filth, without proper food, hygiene, or medical attention. This wasn't the first time the authorities had been notified about problems at Erica's house. Back in 2007, Child Protection Services had investigated, after complaints, about the home's condition. But at that time, officials claimed they didn't find clear proof of neglect, and no action was taken. That missed opportunity allowed the situation to spiral even further over the years. This time, the response was immediate. All four of Erica's children, her teenage daughter, 10-year-old son, and the two younger girls, were removed from the home and placed in state custody. Medical examinations revealed just how bad the neglect had been. The 3-year-old was severely malnourished. Her muscles were so weak that she couldn't sit up on her own, and her eyes were highly sensitive to light, a sign she'd spent most of her time in darkness. The baby had a flattened head from being left lying down for too long. Neither of the younger girls had birth certificates, and both were dangerously underweight. The older children were also in poor condition. Doctors found maggots living inside their ears, and wax buildup was so severe it blocked their eardrums. Altogether, the evidence painted a horrifying picture of long-term neglect and isolation. When authorities told Erica what had been found and that her children were being removed, her reaction was disturbingly calm. She showed almost no emotion, agreed they shouldn't stay in that house, and didn't express concern for their well-being. When police informed Erica Murray that her children were being removed, her reaction left many stunned. Instead of showing concern for her children, she seemed more worried about her missing cat. This odd response raised serious questions about her emotional state and mental stability. A few days later, investigators returned to the house for a deeper search. What they found was far more disturbing than anyone had imagined. Inside two closets, officers discovered the decomposed remains of 3 infants. One of the tiny bodies was wrapped in a pair of sweatpants, with the umbilical cord and placenta still attached, evidence that the baby had likely been left to die shortly after birth. The remains were sent to the medical examiner's office, but the advanced decomposition made it nearly impossible to determine how long the infants had been dead. Forensic experts believe the deaths might have happened months or even years earlier. In one case, it was suspected that the baby may have been born alive, though this couldn't be confirmed with certainty because of the condition of the remains. News of these discoveries spread quickly, shocking the entire community and drawing intense media attention to Erica and her home. During questioning, when police asked if there had been other pregnancies or babies who hadn't survived, Erica at first denied everything. But when detectives revealed that they had found the remains of infants in her house, she eventually admitted to one secret birth, claiming the baby was stillborn. In a recorded interview, she said she panicked after realizing the baby wasn't breathing and hid the body in a closet. Hours later, during further questioning, police told her that they had found 2 more sets of remains. Erica initially insisted those babies were stillborn as well, but under pressure she admitted that one of them, a baby girl, had actually lived for about a week before dying. She claimed she discovered the infant lifeless and blue one morning, but was too terrified to call for help. Erica explained that she had given birth to these children in secret, alone in the bathtub at night while the rest of the household was asleep. She said she felt trapped and scared that her partner, Raymond Rivera, would abandon her if he learned about the pregnancies. Out of fear and shame, she kept everything hidden, choosing secrecy over seeking help. DNA testing confirmed that all 7 children, the 4 found alive and the 3 deceased, were Erica and Raymond's biological children. Both parents were arrested. Raymond appeared visibly shocked and insisted that he had no idea. Two young girls were living in the house, or that three babies had died and been hidden. However, investigators were skeptical. They found it hard to believe that Raymond, who shared a room with Erica, had somehow missed every pregnancy. They also questioned how he could have been unaware of the two younger girls living under the same roof until Erica supposedly told him. Despite these doubts, there wasn't enough solid evidence to prove that Raymond fully knew what had been happening. He was initially charged only with drug offenses after police discovered a marijuana growing setup in the basement. Erica, on the other hand, faced a long list of serious charges: second-degree murder, concealing a death, child abuse, reckless endangerment, and animal cruelty related to the neglected pets found on the property. As the horrifying details came to light, neighbors began to reflect on things they had seen or smelled over the years. One neighbor remembered a foul odor coming from the house, but didn't think much of it at the time. Another regretted not reporting seeing a dog tied up outside on a short leash. These small moments, in hindsight, hinted at the dark reality that had been hidden for so long. People who had crossed paths with the Murray family over the years began sharing what they'd noticed in hindsight. A postal worker recalled that the house often looked run down, and he frequently saw the children eating their breakfast in the garage. A woman who had known Erica since childhood expressed disbelief, remembering how Erica used to visit her mother with her two older kids, yet she had never once seen any other children with her. At the craft store where Erica worked selling candles and handmade items, co-workers said she had unexpectedly quit just 2 weeks before authorities made their grim discoveries. Meanwhile, one of Raymond's colleagues revealed that he had confided in him about financial struggles and hygiene issues at home. This same co-worker noted that Raymond often spent time in the basement growing and using marijuana, though at work he always appeared neat and put together. His clothes were freshly dry cleaned, and his desk was carefully arranged, with family photos of Erica and their two older children. The co-worker recalled Raymond once admitting that, despite the problems at home, he couldn't bring himself to leave Erica because he loved her and didn't want to hurt her. When the horrific details of the home were exposed, officials condemned the property. It was declared unfit for anyone to live in, overrun by flies, rats, animal waste, and mountains of dirty diapers stacked nearly 3 feet high. Specialized cleanup crews were brought in to remove carpets, strip contaminated walls, and tear down shelving, all while searching for any other possible remains. The cleanup alone cost over $25,000, a bill that fell to Raymond's sister, who owned the house. Once the investigation was complete, the house was demolished entirely. The tragedy left a deep wound on the Blackstone community. People gathered outside the site for vigils in the days that followed, bringing flowers, stuffed animals, and balloons in memory of the children. The sense of shock and grief was profound. In December 2014, Erica Murray, then 31 years old, appeared in court for the first time. She pleaded not guilty to all charges, initially held without bail. The judge eventually set bail at $1 million, a decision some felt was surprisingly lenient given the severity of the case. Her trial didn't begin until June 2019, 5 years later. Throughout the proceedings, Erica sat quietly and showed little reaction, except during the moments when photos of the infants' remains were shown in court. Her defense lawyers argued that the 3 deceased babies might have been stillborn, suggesting that their deaths weren't due to criminal negligence. Prosecutors, however, painted a very different picture. They accused Erica of systematically neglecting her 5 youngest children and argued that at least one of the babies had been born alive but died because she refused to seek medical help. The court heard that after moving into the Blackstone house, Erica secretly gave birth to 5 more children, hiding each pregnancy by wearing loose clothing. Witnesses described the horrifying conditions inside the home. Betsy Brown, the neighbor who had first raised the alarm, took the stand and shared what she'd seen: filthy rooms, walls smeared with baby handprints, diapers infested with maggots, and a stench so overpowering that it was unforgettable. The jury was also shown recordings of Erica's police interrogations. In one video, she admitted that one of the infants had been born alive but died soon afterward. She claimed she panicked and didn't call for help. Erica's defense team brought in forensic psychologists who testified that she suffered from a personality disorder and had endured emotional abuse from Raymond. They argued that her mental state prevented her from fully understanding the seriousness of her actions and that, in her own way, she believed she was doing what she could as a mother. Even though the living conditions told a very different story, the defense painted Raymond as a controlling partner. They argued that although he strongly opposed having more children due to financial concerns, he did nothing to prevent pregnancies, leaving the responsibility entirely on Erica. Her lawyers claimed that untreated postpartum depression drove her to hide her pregnancies and keep the birth secret, fearing how Raymond might react if he found out. Prosecutors, however, dismissed this explanation. They insisted Erica wasn't acting out of fear or illness, but was living a life of secrecy that ultimately led to the deaths of her children. They argued that Erica understood what she was doing and had plenty of chances to seek help but chose not to. In the end, the judge ruled that there wasn't enough evidence to prove some of the babies had been born alive. She acknowledged that one infant's death was senseless and heartbreaking, but concluded that the prosecution hadn't shown Erica directly caused it. As a result, Erica was acquitted of second-degree murder and of charges related to endangering her two older children, who were 13 and 10 at the time. However, Erica was convicted of animal cruelty and of assault and battery connected to the severe neglect of her 3-year-old and 5-month-old daughters. The judge described the case as extraordinary, noting that the victims, Erica's own children, were among the most helpless. Even with the shocking details, the court could not impose the maximum penalty because of the mitigating impact of her mental health struggles. In July 2019, Erica, then 36 years old, was sentenced to 8 years in prison. By that point, she had already spent almost 5 years in custody, meaning she only had 3 more years to serve before being eligible for parole. Her parole came with strict conditions: 5 years of supervision, mandatory mental health treatment, and a ban on contact with children under 10. A few months later, in October 2019, Raymond Rivera reached a plea deal with prosecutors. He admitted guilt to several charges, including assault and battery on a child causing serious injury, reckless endangerment, animal cruelty, and drug possession with intent to distribute. His lawyer had previously tried to get the case dismissed, claiming Raymond wasn't responsible for the neglected children because he didn't have custody. Prosecutors disagreed, pointing out that he was their father and legally responsible for their well-being. Raymond received 3.5 years for the assault charge, with credit for time already served. He was also sentenced to 4 years for reckless endangerment, to run concurrently, and was given additional credit for time in custody. After prison, he faced 3 years of probation. His probation terms barred him from unsupervised contact with young children, required him to follow child welfare and court orders, undergo substance abuse treatment, stay drug-free with random testing, and participate in mental health counseling. His lawyer remarked that Raymond had accepted more responsibility than necessary, but he wanted to resolve the case and move forward. In the aftermath, the couple's 2 oldest children were placed under the guardianship of Raymond's relatives. Erica was eventually released from prison after serving her sentence. The 2 youngest girls, who had been found malnourished and living in filthy conditions, were moved between several foster homes during their recovery. Reports indicate that the older of the 2, a 3-year-old referred to as Liza, showed significant improvement over time. Their current situation is less clear. Some accounts say they remain in foster care, while others suggest they now live with their paternal grandparents and siblings.